Year 12, welcome to the next strategy in HRM, which is the next one off the rank, which we're filling in the blanks, which is job design, whether it be general or specific tasks. Now, job design is essentially, in its most basic form as a definition, it's the task that the HR is tasked with designing for the wider market, for advertisement, or for the person that is in that role to complete the job to the best of their ability. All right. So HRM use this as a strategy to essentially write out, all right, what the task of that person is. So it's almost like getting, well, I guess for business studies, we could say it's the syllabus, or at Qantas, a job contract and job advertisement, which is say, your role at Qantas would be X, Y, and Z, or include the following. All right. So it is basically a clear expectations and guidelines of that employee in terms of performing that role or performing that job. So HR uses this as a strategy to ensure that they have the best person allotted to that role. You may never get this in at this point in your life, but you might get this at a later point in your career where you'll go for a role and they say you don't have enough experience in this role. So in other words, you're going for a job as like a managing director of a company. They say you have no experience as a managing director, therefore we're not giving you the job. Or the other one is they sometimes say you have too much experience for this role in terms of it's a step down for you and we wouldn't want to put you into those type roles. But basically, how this strategy is used at Qantas is you have one or two methodologies. You can have the general or what is a specific task. So we have our specific or our narrow and repetitive task, or our general, where you have the broad horizon. So these are our two examples. It's quite easy for you to discern where Qantas would split these two. In terms of, it's fair to say Alan Joyce's job design and job description would be quite broad. With a lot of variety and a lot of different decision-making process skills. Or there's some of the engineering maintenance crew or, baggage carousel workers or flight attendants would have a quite narrow and repetitive job task. All right. Now, again, this can result in demotivated staff or, they can make mistakes which impacts Qantas or impacts any business. The maintenance staff make a mistake, the plane doesn't fly, therefore you're reducing your output and productivity. When the other end of the thing, you get a more highly trained and better paid employee in your broader, quite general employment. However, they can become time poor, make poor choices, and the market for people that have this ability at a higher level is quite small. Hence why CEOs can demand the pay that they do, and it's certainly the case in Alan Joyce's case. All right. If we move to what the example, so in other words, if you think having to write an essay, business report, or expand on this, and even in an SAQ, the general approach of job design is called job enrichment, and they use these three examples, which is basically job enlargement, job rotation, or job enrichment. Qantas practice all three of these. You could say most employment or employers, try at least attempt to practice these. Your job enlargement would be, you're giving them just basically more varied tasks. It might be that you're hired as a flight stewardess, but you've never been the chief stewardess and given that opportunity to go service the cockpit and provide details and details on the flight plan and be the liaison officer between the flight attendants and the cockpit. That would be an example of job enlargement at Qantas. Job rotation is basically the moving of them between tasks. If the task is getting too repetitive or boring in the job design, well, let's do a rotation where we rotate those that are on the desk at the Sydney terminal and the Melbourne terminal. Let's put them on flights and move the people that are on the terminals, on flights back into the terminal. It can do that with your marketing team. I've been marketing for the domestic, or the Qantas can even do it between Jetstar and Qantas. But a marketing person could be, or a HR person could be, I've been working on the domestic side of the airline. Now I'm working on the international side of the airline. And the final example is just the job enrichment. And this can be done on a much smaller basis by middle management or even lower ranked managers in terms of giving someone a small, it can be very minute, example or daily activity that's now their power. Before then, you're always one of the maintenance workers who just sort of got to work. Now you're overseeing two other maintenance workers given your experience. And that's an example of accountability, responsibility, independence. It may be that we're asked for you to file a report at the end of the task of the flight, and the flight's to do a review of the flight. That's giving you responsibility, independence, but also some accountability within it. This is pretty simple. There's only the three examples here of what job design is, but we can see how HRM use this as a strategy to help improve employees throughout the business.